Welcome to my channel, ketomealsandrecipes.com. I'm really happy that you've joined me today because I'm going to show you how to make this super easy, moist lemon custard cake, which has a really nice balance of the lemony tartness and a bit of sweetness. And of course, it's keto, sugar-free, and gluten-free, and grain-free. But the best part of all is I serve this to my non-keto family and they love it. So I think everybody will enjoy it. Now, the macronutrient ratio for this lemon custard cake is 6.2 to 1, with 3.1 grams of total carbs, 1 gram of dietary fiber, resulting in only 2.1 gram per generous slice. As I mentioned, this cake is really easy and quick to put together, so begin by preheating your oven to 330 Fahrenheit or 166 degrees Celsius. Also, line an 8 by 8 inch or 20 by 20 centimeter square pan with parchment paper. When you're lining it with the parchment, make sure that the corners and the edges are nice and tight in order to ensure that the cake has nice corners and edges. Then set this pan aside. The next step is to take 2 bowls and separate your eggs, putting the egg whites into one bowl and the egg yolks into another bowl. We're going to focus on the bowl with the egg whites, to which I add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. Then, using either your stand mixer or your hand mixer, whip the egg whites to very stiff peaks. And you can tell that you've got the right degree of stiffness because when you're done, if you turn your bowl upside down, the egg whites should stay firm and not slide. And then set the egg whites aside for a moment. Next, to the bowl with the egg yolks, add the granulated sweetener and whip at high speed until the egg whites are a nice pale yellow color. The next thing you're going to do is pour in the melted butter and also the vanilla and whip to combine. To the same bowl, sprinkle in your almond flour and your lupin flour. In some places it's called sweet lupin or white lupin. And then whip to combine. And also add the glucomannan, in some places called konjac root powder, and this is your binding agent for non-glutinous flours. And use your mixer to whip and combine all the ingredients. Now I'm going to drop in my lemon zest and the rest of my lemon juice, and then whip well to combine all my ingredients. And while you continue to whip, pour in the heavy whipping cream and water. The next step is to scoop out 1/4 of the whipped egg whites and add them to the bowl with the egg yolk mixture. Stir or beat vigorously to integrate. This step will loosen the batter and make it easier to add and combine the rest of the egg whites without deflating them. And all that's left to do is to gently fold or combine by hand in order to integrate the egg whites into the batter. And while you're folding, make sure that you're not deflating the egg whites. You want the batter to be very light and fluffy. But when you're done folding, you may notice that there are bits of egg white through the mixture. Don't worry about that. While baking, the bits of egg white will rise and create the top layer of the cake. Now, pour the batter into the parchment-lined baking pan. Place the pan in the middle position of your preheated oven and set your timer for 40 minutes. Depending on your oven, you may want to check at about 35 minutes, just to be sure, because baking time may vary depending on your oven and how fast it cycles, and the kind of pan you're using, and also how much custard you want on the bottom of the cake. The goal is to bake until the center is barely jiggly and the top is firm to a gentle touch. For those of you who like the nice custard layer to form, about 40 to 45 minutes is the right time. However, if you still want that moist custard mouthfeel, but less runny custard, continue baking for a few more minutes. With my oven and cake pan, I found I had to bake it for 55 minutes because we like it moist but firmer. I find the bit of extra firmness is nice because it's easier to cut the cake and to serve it. But both degrees of doneness are wonderful. And it all depends whether you prefer the classic with the soft custard layer or my way with the more incorporated custard into the cake. Take it out of the oven and let it cool to room temperature in your pan. While it's cooling, you may notice that your cake will settle and drop in the center a little bit. But don't worry, this happens all the time. When it's time to serve the cake, I like to remove my cake from the pan and cut it into 3 rows by 3 rows for nice even slices. However, if your cake has more of a custard layer, you may want to leave it in the pan and scoop it out directly from the pan and serve it onto your plate. This cake is wonderful just as it is, and you don't need a garnish, but if you want to garnish it, what I like to do is to dust with the sweetener which has been ground to a fine confectioner powder. If by chance you have leftovers, you can store the rest of the cake in an airtight container and place it in your refrigerator for several days. I've noticed that this cake does not freeze very well, so I would not recommend freezing it. I hope you will enjoy this light, refreshing cake, which is perfect at any time or as a satisfying dessert after a meal. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch my video all the way to the end. Your support means a lot to me. Also, if you have time, share your thoughts in the comment sections and refer the link or my channel to someone who you think may also like what I cook or bake. Until next time, I hope you have an amazing day. Cheers!